Aviation is not cheap, and the prospect of spending thousands of dollars on flight training can feel a bit overwhelming. Knowledge really is power here, so the more you know about your financial situation and the options open to you, the more control that you are going to have and that you'll feel.
How many people go through life doing work they really don't like, but every day dreaming of, say, working in the aviation industry? They say it's too late. They think it would be too hard. They think it would go against conventional norms. If you never go after what you want, you'll never have it. This is Fly the Transition. Join us as we soar through the captivating stories of individuals embracing a thrilling journey into the aviation industry. From pilots spreading their wings to mechanics fine-tuning the engines and a myriad of industry professionals, each with a unique tale to tell. Get ready to dive into the diverse backgrounds, the pivotal moments that propelled their leap, and the sheer determination that transformed their aspirations into reality. We're not just about dreams. We're about making them take flight. Welcome to Fly the Transition. And now your host, Jim Schilling.
Welcome, aviation friends, back to another episode of Fly the Transition, where we'll help you navigate the ups and downs of a midlife career change into aviation. I'm your host, Jim, and today we're going to be tackling a topic that hits home for a lot of aspiring pilots. How do you manage the fear of financial instability and the costs associated with flight training? If you have ever wondered how to fund your flight training while balancing life's expenses, this episode is for you. But before we dive in, let me put this out there. I am not a financial planner or advisor, and the advice on this episode is based on my personal experiences and the research I've done on this topic. I highly recommend seeking professional financial advice when planning something as big as a career change, especially one with such significant financial implications like aviation. That said, I've got plenty of useful tips to provide today and strategies that can help you manage the financial side of your training journey. So first things first, let's acknowledge the fear of financial instability. This is real, and it's something that affects so many of us, especially if you're contemplating a career change later in life. Aviation is not cheap, and the prospect of spending thousands of dollars on flight training can feel a bit overwhelming. Maybe you have a mortgage, family obligation, kids and all kinds of activities and other financial responsibilities that are already on your plate. The fear here isn't just about the raw numbers, it's the uncertainty that comes with making such a big shift. Will you be able to sustain your current lifestyle while you pursue this passion? What if something unexpected happens? You have a medical emergency in the family or other job loss. These are all valid concerns, and part of what we're going to talk about today is to break down how to address them so that you can pursue your dreams without putting your financial well-being in jeopardy. So first, let's start by understanding the costs involved in flight training. If you've looked into it already, you know it can add up fast. So let's break it down. For your private pilot license, depending on location and the speed of your progress, you're probably looking at $8,000 to $15,000 for your private. For your instrument rating, add another $8,000 to $12,000. For your commercial rating, maybe another $20,000. And for your flight instructor rating, typically another $5,000 to $10,000. On top of that, you have to account for your written exams, your check rides, medical certificates, and potentially any loss of income if you do decide to reduce your work hours to complete your flight training. It's easy to see how these costs can start to spiral, but that's why having a solid plan in place can make all the difference. And don't worry, we're going to dive into strategies for managing these expenses in just a moment. So now that we've covered these costs, let's talk about how to approach them with a solid financial plan. A lot of people think, well, I just can't afford flight training, and they give up before they even start. But with the right strategy, it might not be as impossible as it seems. So here's a few steps to start building a financial plan for your training. First off, start with setting a budget. Figure out what you can realistically afford to spend on training each month. This might mean cutting expenses out that aren't essential, going out to dinner, unnecessary subscriptions to streaming services. Besides, you're going to be studying anyways, you won't have time to watch the newest thing on Netflix, or impulse purchases. Remember, every dollar that you can save here, you can put towards your flight training fund. Next, I would say save in advance. If you're not in a rush, consider saving up for a year or so before you start doing your training. Building up that financial cushion can help you handle the ups and downs that might come your way. It's going to reduce your stress. It's going to give you more flexibility. And this way, you're not diving into training without a backup plan. Then explore some financing options. There are several different financing options available to you specifically for flight training. You can find flight school loans, but be cautious. Make sure that you're reading the terms carefully, especially those interest rates. Some flight schools will offer their own financing options, so it's worth asking what they might have available. You may be able to look into other student loans, or there are some people that will go and get like a low interest rate credit card and put all of their training expenses onto that. Just make sure if you do that, again, you're looking at the interest rates and you know that you're going to be able to cover those expenses. Next will be pay as you go. A lot of people think that right out the gate, you need to have all the money that you're going to need to complete flight training, and that's not necessarily true. With a lot of schools, you can pay as you go. So if accumulating debt feels risky to you, consider paying off your lessons one session at a time, or you could do in a small little block at a time. This approach can help you avoid large upfront costs and give you more control over your budget. Consider part-time training. Full-time training might not be feasible for you, especially if you're already working. So if that is the case for you, consider training part-time while keeping your current job. It might take you longer, but it could produce more financial stability for you along the way. Something else to consider is leveraging employer benefits. This might come as a surprise, but some employers do offer educational assistance programs. So even if you don't think your current job aligns with aviation, it's worth checking with your human resources to see what kind of financial aid they could offer for further education. Now, a word of caution here, some employers do require that if you're going to do this type of thing for financial aid, that it has to be related to your job. So don't get discouraged if that's the case. Now, we briefly talked about this a moment ago, but let's talk about some sacrifices. This part is crucial, especially if you're balancing existing financial commitments. Budgeting for flight training often means cutting out unnecessary expenses. So take a really close look at your spending. Are you paying for subscriptions you barely use? Can you cut down on the time you're eating out or limit your entertainment budget? And consider scaling back in these areas, even if it's just temporary. The money you save on non-essentials can go straight in your flight training fund. It's also worth considering if you can make bigger lifestyle adjustments like downsizing your living situation, selling a car you don't use much. I know that sounds like a drastic step, but they can free up significant funds for your training. The key is to look at your financial habits with a critical eye and decide what's worth sacrificing in the short term to achieve your long-term goals. The other thing to keep in mind here, and I've mentioned this in other episodes, is communication. Those sacrifices, if you have a family or other people involved in your situation, aren't necessarily just going to fall on you. So make sure that you are having open, clear communication with those in your life about how these sacrifices might impact others. Another bit of good news is that there is financial help out there if you know where to look. So let's talk about some scholarships and grants. A lot of people don't realize how many organizations and institutions offer financial aid for aspiring pilots. So take a look at places like AOPA, Women in Aviation International, or the Experimental Aircraft Association. They all offer scholarships specifically for flight training. Even if you're not right now a member of these organizations, it's worth looking into their financial aid opportunities because many are open to anyone pursuing aviation. Another excellent resource is the 99s, another international organization for women pilots that also offers scholarships to women pursuing their flight training goals. As we mentioned before, don't forget to check out your flight school to see if they have their own scholarship or financial aid program. Lastly, if you're a veteran or currently serving our country in the military, the GI Bill may also be able to cover some flight training expenses. So make sure you speak with your representatives in Veterans Affairs or within your branch of the military to see if that's an option for you. There might be a few hoops to jump through, but it's worth exploring. Financial uncertainty doesn't just affect your bank account. It can take a toll on your mental health too. So the stress of managing training costs coupled with the fear of financial instability can sometimes feel paralyzing. So here's a few tips to help you manage the psychological side of your financial stress. The first is to stay informed by not just listening to me, but seeking out more knowledge. Knowledge really is power here. So the more you know about your financial situation and the options open to you, the more control that you are going to have and that you'll feel. I would also say seek out some support. You don't have to just go through this alone. Talk to your family and friends about your plans, and their support can provide both practical and emotional relief. Sometimes a candid conversation with a family member or friend can give you new insights and make the challenges feel a little less overwhelming. Also, talk to people who have been there. You are not the only person who's tried to go through this journey, so seek out places where you can find other pilots who might have some guidance for you as well. And also, don't forget to focus on your why. Don't lose sight of why you're pursuing this in the first place. And remember, yes, the financial investment is going to be significant, but the potential for a fulfilling and long-term career is priceless. Aviation offers incredible opportunities both professionally and personally, so keep your eye on that bigger prize. So let me leave you with this. The financial aspects of flight training may be daunting, but they're not impossible to manage. So with careful planning, sacrifices, and research into financial aid options, you can make this work. It's about playing that long game. Keep your focus on the end goal of becoming a pilot and taking it one step at a time. Many pilots before you have faced these exact fears and challenges, and they've successfully navigated them. If aviation is your passion, don't let financial worries hold you back. You are not alone, and there are resources, scholarships, and all kinds of strategies that can help you achieve your goals. Well, that will do it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining me on Fly the Transition. If you've got more questions or stories of your own that you want to share with others, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to have you help me keep this conversation going. If you want to reach out or share more, you can reach me at flythetransition@gmail.com or any of my social medias that I will post down in the show notes. Thank you once again for joining me on this episode of Fly the Transition, and until next time, keep your eyes on the sky and your dreams soaring high.
You've been listening to Fly the Transition. Life is too short for you not to do what you love. And our passion is to give you all the tools you need to make the transition from doing what you do to being in the aviation industry. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, you can reach out by email at flythetransition@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook at Fly the Transition. And the website for Flying Midwest Media is flyingmidwest.com. Keep soaring. See you next time on Fly the Transition.